I have a reading rush. Did I start on day 1? Did I start on day 2? 3? 4? 5? Pretty sure it's day 5. No less, I shall come here. I have read. There was things that kept me from reading on the first 4 days. Could have been chemical waste. It could have been personal tragedy. Probably parents, siblings, wife, husband, daughter I didn't know about. All great options. But, I have been reading comic books. Did I plan on reading any comic books? No. Have I read any comic books in recent times? No, except for that Black Panther thing that I'm still supposed to be working. Is my currently reading thing now over 30 books? These are all true. Yeah. So, I read Harleen, which was really, really good. I now really love Stefan Sevic. That's how I'm going to butcher his name. And I love his realistic and his really good use of art. I love it so darn much. And then I read the follow-up that's kind of in the whole universe. That is White, Black, and Red. Super great, super short, which is the only thing that keeps it from being excellent. And I really, really hope that he writes more. This is really my introduction to Harley. I watched the Birds of Prey movie. I did not like it. I haven't watched Suicide. I haven't watched Batman the Animated Series. I've seen clips from it, and I don't think, I honestly think this might be my literal first time actually watching Harley Quinn rather than just seeing her in videos of people talking about comics, because I do that a lot. And then I started this right before the reading rush, right? Reading the Joker 80th edition and like learning about Punchline and getting really consumed with casually comics. I was having a hard week and I went through and literally watched every single one of her backlisted videos, except for her live streams. There's a lot. I can probably imitate her now. And yeah, that was fun. And now I'm reading White Knight, which deals with an alternate world where the Joker is cured of his psychosis by pills. And he now is the good guy, kind of, and Batman is the bad guy. And it's really interesting. There's 2 Harleys. We get to see kind of the evolution of that character. I kind of want to follow that through. So if you read comics in general, I have read comics, but I know a lot more about comics than I have actually read. Yeah, so I would love some suggestions of some classic ones you love, places that you'd like to start. I know most of the storylines, but I haven't read a lot of the storylines myself. I have to take in other people's words for it. I did that with classic books for a long time too, because I don't know, I love researching things almost more than I love reading them, which is probably an issue. But yeah, that is where I am now. I'm really enjoying it. I'm just at the end of issue 5 of that, so there's 3 more issues to read, and I'm really excited. I don't like the traditional writing style, especially after I read Stavik. I thought that I love his use, the way that he uses art so traditionally and realistically. Like, obviously it's still drawn, but you see the emotion so well, and this is very like stick and very less emotions, very dark, like, but it still has some great imagery, especially with the dealing with like kind of looking at Harley and her obsession over the Joker and paralleling that with Joker's obsession over Batman. It is good, and I'm really excited to be going on. I don't know if I'm actually reading a real book. Obviously, comics are a real book, but I don't know if I'm going to be reading a physical book that is reading or even an audiobook this week, but we'll see. And I'll try to do the reading rush things, and it will be a lot of fun. Is my reading rush going well? No, it's not. But you know what? It's Saturday. There's one more day. I read comics, and I have Pet. This is really short. Maybe I'll be able to read this. I should have checked the land. I don't know that much about it, but I've heard really good reviews, so that's my thoughts on that. And then I have, wow, this is hard to carry with one hand, Empire of Gold. Is this backwards? Yeah, it is. This is a third in the David trilogy, one of my favorite probably. And I read the 2 on audio, but I don't think my library has them yet, so I'm gonna be going into this masterpiece. And it does Muslim and Middle Eastern mythology really well, and it's excellent. I really recommend it as a really good gateway from young adult into adult, but it has a lot of maturity and other things as well, and great, fantastic world building. So I finished White Knight last night, and I actually really, really enjoyed it. I thought that the art style still really, really grated on me. Like, it was very traditional, and it's funny because I'm reading books set in the 80s that is actually less traditional and more expressive, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I really liked it. I really especially loved Harley's plot, and it had a Harley reveal at the end, which was really cool. And just talking about Jack and the Joker and Batman and where he would be without Alfred, which was cool, and just so many different aspects that I really, really enjoyed. And yeah, it was good. And then I just finished Gotham by Gaslight, which is an alternate story that actually started Elseworlds and features him in 1889. And it's very interesting. The first one was cool. It did Jack the Ripper. Was it kind of trite and predictable? Yes. But I think that, like, I can forgive that for it being a landmark thing. Second one, I am so confused about. It just featured this guy who's called Future Man, who is very worried about industrialization. And then he really wants to stop this fair, and I'm confused. I get, like, World Fairs used to tech, like, the up-and-coming tech, but, like, fairs themselves aren't the most advanced. Like, he's talking about factories and stuff, and it's like, how does this relate to the fair? Like, wouldn't you just kill the technology and not the fair? Anyways, a lot of people die. There was this whole, like, something with who was his henchman. There wasn't a lot of plot. There was a random love interest who, accordingly, was obsessed with Batman, but in the end, she actually knew it was Bruce Wayne, even though it's his fiance, and I've never heard of the character before. There's a lot of things going on, and I was just like, why do I care? Maybe that's hard. Anyways, I'm going to start Death in the Family, and we're going to a patio, which is really exciting to read because I have not yet read a book outside, and I think I will mostly have figured all of the prompts, except for a continent, but part of Gotham and Gaslight does place in Europe and randomly features Sigmund Freud, and he's just holding a skull. Why is Bruce Wayne just sitting talking to an Austrian doctor and holding a skull? It's really random. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it's an 11 on I've been sitting out on a patio in 37-degree weather, which for Americans is well over 100 degrees. It'd be hot, but the nice thing is if you spend a lot of time geography and then you list off most of the countries in the world with M, but forget Myanmar, and talk to baristas, they will give you free drinks and free pastries. That's how you do life. So the Death in the Family, I could not find it. For some reason, I could find Death in the Family, but not A Death in the Family, which I'm not sure is a retelling because it's the same. The illustrator from the original one was the writer on this, but it was like 24 years later. Anyways, I don't know what's happening, but instead I read the 80th anniversary of Robin, which was wonderful. I really loved it. Dick is like my favorite. Love him so much. Don't take that out of context. I really enjoyed the first one. It was him becoming Nightwing, and then most of them are him being Nightwing, which is really awesome. And my favorite one, which was the fourth, and I think it makes sense that out of, I guess I didn't even think, I think there is 8 stories, and 4 of them are for him, and that's because he did 4 decades. Jason got 1, Stephanie got 1, because both of them were less than 10 years, and both Tim and Damien got 2 because they've been in both 2 decades. I didn't even think about that. Wow. Anyways, putting that together on the spot, and I really loved it. And he appears in a few of the others as well. So this is an ode to all of the people who have been Robins over the years. And one of my favorites, the last one, is he is training someone else and he is doing the same. So a lot of the first things, it's lessons, and we see in gray, and I will put it up here so I'll have space for it. And you can see them, and he's repeating Bruce's lesson. But then there's things like, only trust people you know, and even then don't trust them completely. And he's like, give people the benefit of the doubt until you have to knock them out. And it's like, it's beautiful, and it shows how things, and another one in the first one where it says, like, you know, he is the protector, and the fact that Bruce didn't get revenge until an adult, so he lived with that betrayal and need for revenge, where Bruce took him in immediately and and took the people to justice the day that Bruce's parents were killed, or the night before, or whatever. So he grew up knowing that Bruce Wayne protected and loved him, so he wanted to protect and love people. And, like, you know, Dick Grayson will always probably be my favorite comic book character. I love him a lot as both Robin and Nightwing, and I am very, very biased. But I really love them, and I haven't actually read any comics with Tim, and I've seen him briefly in Young Justice and a few other animated things, but I don't know much of that about Tim. But Jason's was, like, so sad. Like, it has him, and it has him as a little boy, well, probably like 12, 13. I thought he was older when he became Robin, but I don't know. He looks young in this comic, and he's fixing it as a present, and he says, I'm not quite fixed it, but you need to wind it up. It's a clock from Thomas Wayne watch, but you have to wear it to wind automatically, or you have to wind it and give it attention. And then it shows years later, and then he's like, I will give you this back when I fixed it completely. And throughout, it's intersecting him with, like, Red Hood older, and at the end there's like this blown up place and Bruce comes in and there's a thing and Red Hood is looking on from the shadows saying, "Happy birthday, Bruce." I'm getting chills right now. It was such a perfect way to mash up him as Robin, him as Thing, and then we had talks in that as well where Tim is talking about this. My favorite was first Tim's one, which is called Extracurricular or something like that, and it's so great. The guy's like, "You're really smart, but like you gotta do some extracurriculars if you want to do law enforcement," and it's going through like helping at-risk kids, doing sports, like all of these things, and it just shows things with him as Robin doing these things, and this is just my humor. And second one is kind of him talking about the placements of the different Robins, of, you know, Dick being the golden boy, of Jason being the bad sheep, of Damien being the biological kid, and him being the one who kind of chose it. And I thought it was beautiful. And then there were Super Sons, which had Jonathan, Kent, and Damien, and I've been meaning to read these for a really long time. And then we have Damien, which it's just like top-notch Damien and Bruce, where they are like ratting at each other and being cocky as heck through the whole time, being like, they don't understand, they lack conviction. And it's great, and there's supposed to be a continuation, so I am a little bit hooked to finish that arc. But yeah, I really, really loved this. I was going to read something else before, but right now I might search up what the things for the blog I was supposed to do, and I will do those things, and then we'll end it. And this was a very bad reading rush, probably my worst yet, but you know what? Things happen, and it's great. The best I can do. I almost got that into my head. I am sophisticated, very proper. I thought it was upside down. This is one of my favorite fandoms, although you can't even see it. It's a Fire Nation spoof. I want to get dressed today, but everything changed in the Fire Nation intact. Did an ex give this to me? Did I forget everything he ever talked to me about except for this shirt? I did, indeed. Was that relevant conversation? Should I be talking this late at night to the camera? Probably not. But DC, Fire Nation, two of my favorite things. My favorite color. Yeah, if only I was born in January, and then I could have read all the red books. Okay, I'm gonna now make coffee and talk about my favorite books. Also, alternatively, if it was supposed to be a random book matched to the clothes I was actually wearing, The Odyssey, Legends, Myth, or Reality or History. No, I also might not make coffee because I've had 5 cups of coffee today. This might be the issue. So I'm just gonna go ultra Canadian. We have maple spice, which is mostly just chai. And then we have Toronto. I'm not from Toronto, and I spent most of my life being very mean to Toronto people because that's what you do in Ottawa, and you have the Senators and the Leafs going at each other. But I can take pride in this beautiful thing, and one day I might even buy an Ottawa cup. This is my roommate's, and she's a proud Torontoite. This is not a sponsored video, but we do have Keurig. I did have to save this because, you know, we have a Tim Hortons thing. So this is even more Canadian, but sadly, that almost went through and was almost maple chai with cappuccino in it because we need those iced chaps. So then as you let the tea steep, you grab the maple syrup by the liter because, you know, that's the most Canadian way, and you grab it even though it's very hard to do with one hand. And you just pour a good chunk in. And if you're like, why do you have these in random mason jars by the liter? It's because, yeah, I grew up on a maple syrup hobby farm. My childhood was just lugging like gallons upon gallons upon gallons of maple syrup because every one of these is 40 gallons. Yeah, it was fun, but it tastes really good. So at least all of that unpaid work was rewarded. I thought it was book stories, like one of my favorite books, but it has to be, so my best friend growing up, Genevieve, she is awesome. I kind of started when I think I started, I was like talking to her a lot because she was literally the only person who watched me. So shout out to her for always being there for me, and it's great. But so I was dyslexic, so I didn't start reading that well until like 7th, 8th grade and 9th grade. And we became friends when I was in 8th grade, and it was just, I don't know, she's probably the person who has had the biggest impact on me in my life in general. We've known each other for 11 years now, and that's pretty much half of our lives. So yeah, it is just super amazing to have someone who loves reading, and so many of my favorite stories are there. Like, we'd always be made fun of our friends, like our families and stuff, because we would like each year throughout our growing up years, we'd spend like a week at each other's house. And like she went to school in France and went to school in Texas, and she like flew back to like have a weekend with me, and she's always been super amazing and just awesome, and we've continued to like keep up and go on road trips to see each other even though we've like lived far apart for the last 5 years. But when we were growing up, we would just like sit there and read books, and our parents or our siblings would just be like, why aren't you talking? We're like, but we just like enjoying, and then like we'd laugh every once in a while and like read dramatic stories. But like she's the reason like I love musicals. She's the reason which has led me to read a lot of books, and she's the reason I love DC Comics, because she sat me down and made me watch The Flash, and then like made me watch Young Justice, and like we watched Smallville because when I first started getting sick, she stayed with me and we watched like the whole first season of Smallville. And then at one point we're like, let's go outside, but I was really sick, so we sat on my parents' deck and it had a glass door and it dropped down. And my family was not there, they were at a cottage, and she'd stay back with me because I was too sick. And we're like, my family lives in the middle of nowhere, farmland and forest all around us, and we're like, we're stuck on the second story watching Smallville. But like that's one of the reasons I love reading, because like I got into watching the TV shows and then started watching the comics. She's the reason I love Percy Jackson. We share our love of Narnia. I introduced her to Avatar. Like pretty much every fandom I am a part of is like an expansion of us watching things together and enjoying them. And like, so like I told her about the Lunar Chronicles, but I couldn't get them from the library, so then she bought the first one and then read them all, and then like let me borrow her books, and then like I bought Cress and Winter, and we like switched back, and like there's so many series that I only own part of them because we owned like companion series where we would just have one set of books between us. And for so many years like our things were inseparable, and like it's even now, even though I'm an adult, even time like when she says something that she doesn't love, I'm like, oh, but I can't love it. But like, yeah, we do have different tastes and we're totally different in many aspects, but I don't know, she's probably the person I love the most and has changed me in so many ways that I think about the world and think about everything, but also like introduced me to being in fandoms, joined me, and like, yeah, like I would not be the person I am with reading and writing and like things. And like the first time we talked was just us bonding over being like these weird nerds that no one knew. Not that nerds are really like not stylish anymore. And she has like a Nightwing jacket. I'm so jealous she's a Nightwing jacket. Oh, like literally the coolest person I've ever known. And I know it's biased because she's like my best friend, but man, I love her so much. And yeah. So that is definitely my favorite book memories all congested together. And I was gonna say something else like Anne of Green Gables as well, and like just reading things with her and her sister. Like her sister married my brother, so probably because they were literally always stuck with hanging out with us. And you know, we did our weddings, like we were in her bridal party, and just like we've always read together and discussed books, and like even far away, like us talking about books and stuff like that. And Taylor Swift, those are the people why I love Taylor Swift so much, because of my sister-in-law and the memories of us going crazy. So most of the things that I'm like super passionate with are because of Genevieve and Gabrielle in my life, and I'm just very thankful